Websites, ahelp.com for academic IELTS, glshelp.com for general, and also students, we're using YouTube backup servers right now. YouTube primary servers seem to have some kind of a problem. So hopefully that'll be fixed for tomorrow. I'll troubleshoot it a bit later today, see if anything can be done on our end. But anyway, good for you for being in the class. Hang in there. Definitely a valuable lesson today, continuing from yesterday's task 2 lesson. Okay, so we're going to continue writing a unique Band 9 essay. If you missed yesterday's class, that's okay. We're going to repeat this question and introduction here in just a moment. If anybody has questions, you can always email me at adrian@aehelp.com. Okay? All right. Uday, good luck on your exam on the 12th. Tomorrow we'll have some speaking live classes as well. And this is the question for task 2 that we're going to be looking at. Bekjan, it's YouTube live streaming. It is what it is. It's YouTube. YouTube has a primary server for live streaming and a backup server in case something happens. And I guess something might be going on with the YouTube primary servers. So if you have a YouTube channel and you do live streams, you can switch to backup servers if the primary server goes down, which never happened in the last 4 years. So, but nothing is perfect. Even YouTube doesn't have 100% uptime for these. So, but thankfully they have the backup server. Anyway, let's get into our task 2, students. Here we go. So this is what we looked at yesterday. I'm sure many of you remember this if you were here. IELTS task 2 writing. You should spend about 40 minutes on this task. Many people work long hours to make enough money for everyday life and have little time to spend with family and entertainment. What are the causes and solutions to this situation? Give examples and explanations to support the arguments in this essay. Okay, and write at least 250 words. That means minimum 250 words. So yesterday, we paraphrased this question to make sure that we understand it. Millions of individuals work many hours to earn enough money for sustenance needs, but have only a few hours to be with loved ones and to have fun. What creates this situation and how can it be avoided? Okay, this is not your introduction. So yesterday we spent some time planning the essay. In the planning, we came up with the topic, the controlling idea, and then we did some critical thinking about the topic and the controlling idea, so that we can create a good argument for the essay. Okay? And after we did that, we were able to come up with our thesis statement. The thesis statement is the position of your essay, so it's what you're going to claim or argue in your essay. And our thesis was the causes of being overworked are low wages and high prices, while solutions lie in more education and investing. Okay, so then I talked a bit about the introduction. And the introduction has a hook, a background, and a thesis. It has these 3 parts. It's about 4, maybe 5 sentences in total. Okay? It can be as short as 3 sentences sometimes. So 1 sentence for the hook, 1 sentence for the background, 1 sentence for the thesis. And then with this question, I showed you what a Band 9 introduction looks like. Okay? Uday, if you write 320 words in the 40 minutes, it's totally okay. Band 9 essays are often closer to 300 words. In fact, if any of you are trying the TOEFL exam, you'll see that your task 2 essay there is 300 words minimum, okay, not 250. So the Band 9 introduction looks like this. So this is the hook. Millions of people suffer from being overworked to survive. Okay? And then the background is like this. Individuals slave away in the workplace for 14 hours each day to afford food, rent, commute, and clothes. And then this trend has detrimental effect on people's relationships and overall quality of life. Okay? And then here's the thesis. The causes of long working hours are low wages and high prices, while the solutions lie in more education and investing. So this is a band 9 essay. It has a clear hook, background, and thesis. So the reader knows what you're talking about, why you're talking about it, and what your essay is going to argue. Okay? A good introduction answers all of those questions. So what is this essay about? Why does this essay matter? What's important about it? And what's the argument this essay is presenting? Okay? Varakavi, to learn more about the hook, look at yesterday's video. So the first part of this task 2. Okay? In this lesson, everyone, we're focusing on the body paragraphs and the conclusion. So this is just a review for yesterday's class so people know where we are. Okay? All right, so this is a Band 6 introduction for a Task 2 essay. A Band 6 introduction looks like this. Millions of individuals work many hours to earn enough money for sustenance needs, but have only a few hours to be with loved ones and to have fun. This essay will discuss the causes and possible solutions to this phenomenon. So this is a Band 6 introduction. It doesn't tell the reader clearly what the essay is going to argue. It doesn't give an explanation of what the topic clearly is, okay? And it doesn't grab the interest of the reader. All right? So notice the clear difference between a Band 9 and a Band 6 introduction. All right? All right, so let's go to body paragraph 1. Okay. So body paragraph 1 begins with a topic sentence, and the topic sentence is a deeper definition of your first thesis point or points. Okay, so here for our first body paragraph, we're talking about, or we're writing about, the causes of long working hours as low wages and high prices. Okay, so what do we mean by that? Give me a definition of low wages and high prices. That should be your thesis statement. I'm going to do the same, and then we'll compare. Okay? All right, so all right. So let's see what you come up with for your topic sentence. Okay, so again, it's a deeper definition of the topic sentence. Let's see what you come up with. MacRX says the majority of employees who possess below average skills often get low salaries to pay their day-to-day expenditures. Okay, Mac, I think you're going into an okay direction with that. All right. Lepay says, it seems impossible for people to go home early as the fierce competition in the job market. Okay, I'm not sure, Lepay, if that's the same as the thesis point 1, which is low pay. Okay, fierce competition and low pay, they're connected, but at this point it's unclear how you're making that connection. Okay. Rahul Preet says, in the current situation, and high inflation rate has great impact on the lives of poor and middle class society. Again, Rahul Preet, it seems off topic. Okay. All right. Let's see what else we have. Rajveer says, the majority of employees who possess below average skills often get low salaries to pay their day-to-day expenditures. Okay, that's the right direction, Rajveer. Let's see where you go with it. Un says, the ever-increasing living expenses regarding house bills and other expenditures with a limited amount of money earned per month have made people work harder and longer. Okay, Un, I think you've got the right direction as well. So those are good. Baekjan says, although people work long hours, they often make only a few dollars a month, which is not enough to cover the expensive expenditures like bills, food, and shelter. Good, Baekjan. It's a great direction, okay? This is my topic sentence. Many of the popular and necessary professions in today's world are awarded with relatively small salaries, while the cost of living has significantly increased over the past few decades, which leads people to work much more than the 40-hour full-time week. Okay, so that's a good topic sentence. So give me an explanation for that. Okay, now the next part is that we need to explain this. So explain low salaries relative to the high cost of living, say, okay, and why people need to work more, okay? So think about your example here. You can think about a specific example of a nurse or a doctor or a construction worker or carpenter. Think about how much they're working, what they're doing, how much they're making, what they can pay for, and then think about the explanation. So the explanation of the why, right? So why is this happening? Why are people working long hours to make ends meet, to be able to pay for their food and houses and so on, okay? So give me a clear explanation of this. That's the next part, okay? So Un says, as the world is developing rapidly, the cost of amenities have put great pressure on the breadwinner of the family. Moreover, companies have lesser knowledge and skills. Okay, a little bit unclear. I think you can do a bit better on that explanation. Okay. Make it more connected. Start thinking about quantitative information. Okay. So think about how much wages have increased or salaries over the past 20, 30 years or over a generation. And then think about how much the cost of living has increased as far as rent or the cost of food. Okay. So that, I think, will give you a very, very clear idea. You're very welcome, Ayush. So Baekjan says expenditures for people who work as waiters, dishwashers, or a nurse are required to spend a full day in the workplace to get paid a mere $500 a week, as where rent is $2,000. Yeah, so that's okay. Absolutely. You're kind of going towards your example, Baekjan, but that's good. Okay. Joseph says, for example, emergency service workers are still paid below $15 an hour. This number hasn't changed much as the cost of living has. Very good, Joseph. Now, that's your example. Think about the explanation before you get into the example, but your thinking is correct. So you're starting to think of the relative increase in pay over the last few decades versus the relative increase in the cost of living. Great. Amrit says employees have been working day and night, especially to earn more money, while the cost of living is relatively high. Okay, what do we mean by relatively high? Let's explain that clearly. So this is what I would write for the explanation. Keep writing and then compare it with mine. See if you can come up with something a little bit more specific. Okay, and I'm going to do the same, and then we will compare it. So, okay, and you can say decades or since the early 2000s. Okay. So since the early 2000s, now I'm just making these up. As you're reading this, you'll realize that I'm just making these up, but they're kind of accurate, okay? If you travel around the world and you visit different countries, you'll realize that it's kind of accurate. So again, IELTS is not about the truth. Okay, so there's my explanation. Again, thinking about my example, my quantitative language, and then explaining that. Okay, so since the early 2000s, salaries for many professions, such as nurses and teachers, have only increased by about 10%, while the average rent cost has quadrupled. Quadruple, quad, quarter, meaning four times. And the cost of groceries have tripled. This means that these employees need to work at least twice as many hours to afford monthly expenses. Okay, the same as before. That's understood. Okay, so does everybody see how I transitioned into the explanation from the example? Okay, so I'm thinking of my specific example. I'm thinking, well, how much did people make in the early 2000s as a nurse? Maybe $22. Now they make $27 or $26, so it's a relatively small jump, but rent is 4 times as much. In fact, if some of you are wondering, the average cost of houses in Canada from 1990 until now, on average, is 6 times more expensive. 6 times, okay? So if you bought a house in Canada 30 years ago, on average, it would have been 6 times cheaper, okay? The price of cars, for the same quality of cars as 30, 40 years ago, is 7 times more expensive. So those are, I believe, the actual statistics, okay? And I don't think we make 7 times as much money since 30 years ago, okay? So anyway, unfortunately, I laugh, but it's sad. Okay, so let's go for the example. Okay, so now I want to give a specific example for this. Okay, so think about a specific example, and I'll read a couple more explanations while you think about the example. So the example should be a specific real-world example, okay? Or think of how much an electrician gets paid in Tashkent and how much hours those people work. And then you'll come up with a good example, okay? All right. Lubna says, after working from 6 a.m. in the morning till late noon each month around the year, most people are paid $15 to $20 US a month, while the market prices increase by 30% every year. Yeah, Lubna, that's a good explanation, okay? So that's a different way to explain what I've written here, so that's good. Rajveer says, with only 5% hikes in salaries, that is not proportionate to the 20% increase in living costs. Workers have to work at least 2 shifts for 15 hours in order to pay the high prices. Or simply put, Rajveer, to make up the difference, okay? Or to substitute or subsidize the difference in inflation, okay? So this is where you can use some nice vocabulary: subsidize, substitute, okay? Now, when you think about your example, think about how you might be able to integrate that for your second body paragraph as well. So Swati says, although people work day and night to make ends meet, they only earn a maximum of $70, $80 a day, which is much less than the high price of food, clothing, rent. Okay, very good, Saswati. All right, Catherine, it looks like that's your example. For instance, the house rent is extremely high since 2000, and people need to work harder to make enough money to pay for the living costs. So, Catherine, that's not an example. So don't start with for instance. Just start with house rent is extremely high. And then your example, Catherine, coming after can be, for instance, in Hong Kong, the average person earns this much money, but the average rent cost is. Okay, which means that they need to work an average of 16 hours a day to afford their living space. Okay, so that's where you can do the for instance, Catherine. Okay, all right. So let's see. Victor says, in the Wall Street Journal, it was written that physical laborers in Google earn $5 an hour, which is a small salary for their expenditures, and spend 15 hours a day at the office. Okay, Victor, you're on the right track. I think you could be a little bit more direct to the topic and the controlling idea, but you're in the right direction. Okay, all right. Varakavi says, it can be said that white-collar jobs provide meager income which only satisfies basic expenditures of individuals, but does not extend to most luxurious life. Varakavi, that's not a good example. It's too general, okay? An example is something that we can see, we can touch, we can recognize, we can associate with, we can connect with it, okay? So an example is something we can connect with. Okay. Beckchan says, for example, a scientific study carried out by the University of San Francisco revealed that nurses in America work an average of 14 hours, which is 5 hours higher. Beckchan, I don't know why we would have a scientific study in this content. I think it's a bit awkward. Students, the national statistics, okay, which include age, employment, birth, death rate. Okay, that's called the national consensus. Okay, you can just call it consensus. All right, so if you're referring to the consensus, you can do that. Okay, so you can say the Kazakhstan consensus for 2020 showed that nurses only make 5% more, yet the cost of an average home is around 50% more than 10 years ago. Okay, Beckjan? So that would be a consensus. It's better than using scientific study. Okay, it's more accurate. All right. Okay, so I'm going to throw up an example here myself. Just keep thinking about your examples. And then you'll see what I mean by this. So here, I'm talking about in my explanation that the average salaries for professions such as nurses and teachers have only increased by 10%. So here, I'll show you what I mean by the Canadian consensus shows that teachers were paid $20. Don't write the word dollars. Use symbols when you can. $20 an hour in at the turn of the millennium. And in 2020, they make let me just see if I can this battery going back. Here we go. Just a second. All kinds of technical issues today. Wow. It's a interesting day for technology. Okay, there we go. Fix that one quickly. It's a little bit easier than the servers at YouTube. That's on my end. So the Canadian consensus shows that teachers were paid $20 at the turn of the millennium, and in 2020 they made $23 or 22 if I stick to my statistics, $22, while average rent costs soared from $800 to $2,100 during the same period. Okay. So here I can now summarize this paragraph and simply conclude it and say clearly this has created an additional strain on employees as they need to spend more time at their jobs. Okay, so that's my clear example. Okay, so here is my time for family and having fun. Okay. All right, now comes body paragraph 2. Okay. So body paragraph 2 now is about the solutions. Okay, body paragraph 2, topic sentence. It's solutions, more education, and investing. Okay. So give me the topic sentence that defines in more detail the idea of the solution to this problem, working less hours by getting more education and investing more money. Okay? So give me that sentence. All right. Un says, arguably, if people want to escape being overworked, putting effort into higher education and maximizing money by investing can be great solutions. Yeah, very good, Un. Okay, that will work. I can tell you've thought about it, and that works. I'm not sure what you're referring to, Saswati, but I'm happy that everything will be all right. Maybe on your exam somewhere, okay? All right. Rajveer says, learning new skills and investing money wisely are some potential remedies to solve this problem. Yeah, okay, Rajveer, that's good. It's a little bit of a repeat with the thesis points, but it's not bad. Okay. Ayush says everyone should be educated to reduce illiteracy, and government should raise funds for those people who are below the poverty line. Ayush, that is off topic. You will lose marks if you write something like that, okay? We're not writing about literacy and about the government's responsibility here, okay? Victor says people investing in different companies can increase their revenue and solve this issue. Yeah, Victor, I think maybe the stock market, right? Beckchan says pursuing higher education assists people to work less in the long run and devour enough time with family and to have fun. I think, Beckchan, the word you meant to write there's not devour, but devote. Careful, it's two very different meanings, devour and devote. Okay? MD, to improve the standard of living, people need to start investing to increase their income and opt for higher education, which can give them an edge in their field. Very good, MD. I like that. That's a good one. Yorabisha says if people want to get out of these conditions, they could get higher education and invest money in the stock market. Yorabisha, I like it. It's a deeper definition. It works. Okay. So, okay. I'm going to write my topic sentence too. So, in order to all right. So these are my solutions. In order to create more time for loved ones and hobbies, individuals need to increase their hourly wage through higher education and their budget through smart investments. Okay? So that is... my topic sentence for my body paragraph 2 for the solutions. Now I want to give an explanation. Okay, an explanation, again, you can think about your example, right? Think about the teacher here. So I used the teacher for body paragraph 1, okay, as my example. So here I want to continue with the concept of the teacher and think about, well, how can a teacher increase their salary? What kind of education can they get so that they make more money? So that the $2,100 monthly rent doesn't seem so high anymore. How can they invest, right? So think about how can you explain this to your reader, okay? Why? How? Okay, think about those questions, okay? Joseph says, upskilling and further education can enable workers to negotiate for pay raises, which in turn can be invested to generate passive income. Yeah, Joseph, I like it, okay? It's a little bit of a repeat of the topic. Try to quantify it, right? So try to think, okay, or a more unique or niche field, higher paid field, okay? Think about that teacher, think about the nurse. Teacher can become a professor, nurse can become a doctor, right? Anas says, while individuals can tackle this problem by having further education, it will provide them with the necessary skills to acquire a high salary. Okay, Anas, careful with your word use. Don't use the word will. Stay in present tense in your argument. Okay, so individuals can tackle this problem through further education, which provides them skills to acquire high salary jobs. Okay, you don't need the word paying, high salary jobs. Just simplify whenever possible, Anas, okay? Oh, Joseph says, that was my topic sentence. Yeah, okay, so Joseph, good topic sentence because that's what I thought your explanation looked like, okay? All right. Let's see. Mariam says education helps to get good paying jobs, which in turn can be invested wisely for greater future prospects and widening career paths. This helps in providing more for the family. Mariam, don't write your career. Don't speak directly to your reader. Okay, no second person voice, so no you or your. Your marks will go down if you do that. And also, don't start your sentence with and, Mariam, okay? And is used to join sentences. We don't use and in this way, only very rarely, but don't do that in task 2. So don't start sentences with and or but, okay? Don't start sentences with connective coordinating conjunctions, okay? So coordinating conjunctions should not start sentences, all right? Bekchan says, once teachers get qualifications like masters or a PhD from universities, they can become professors and even chancellors in their academic institutions and earn much higher salaries. Yeah, okay, good. Very good, Bekchan. So now you're thinking about making that connection, right? Lubna says, teachers can be offered intensive courses, which adds to their skill set, while more opportunities can be created for others by opening newer businesses. Yeah, very good. Okay. So, explanation. Both teachers and nurses can continue higher education to better their careers and become professors and doctors, thereby tripling their hourly wage and decreasing the demand of working hours. Okay. In addition, they can use any disposable income to invest in blue chip stocks, which can earn a passive income. Okay, so there's my explanation. Here we go. So staying kind of with the same concepts as with body paragraph 1, because that's going to create a lot of cohesion and connectedness among my body paragraphs. So both teachers and nurses can continue higher education to better their careers and become professors and doctors, thereby tripling their hourly wage and decreasing the demand of working hours. In addition, they can use any disposable income to invest in blue chip stocks, which can earn a passive income in the long run, right? Okay, so that's how I would finish that. Okay, and now the example. Okay, so arguably, a doctor, or let's say a professor, I'm staying with a teacher here, professor who makes $65 an hour can much more easily afford than the teacher while working fewer hours. Okay, I'm not going to overcomplicate it. At the end of the day, it's IELTS. You got 40 minutes. You will run out of time, so make sure to pay attention to your time limit. So here with the professor, I'm basically going back to contrast this example from the causes, okay? So the Canadian consensus shows that teachers were paid this much. Now they make $22 an hour, and the rent is $2,100, okay? This has created an additional strain on employees. And then here in my second example, I can say arguably a professor who makes $65 an hour can much more easily afford a $2,100 monthly rent while working fewer hours. Okay? All right. So again, topic, sentence, explanation, example. Your examples need to be real world that the reader can really connect with. Okay? So keep thinking about that. Oftentimes it's good to think about your example before you start writing your body paragraph. Okay? So think about your example before you think about your body paragraph. That will help you write the body paragraph. Okay, let's do a conclusion. So conclusion has 3 parts. Okay, so main points plus argument plus take-home message. Okay, so start it with in conclusion. They like to see that on the IELTS, also in high school, not so much in university. So start it with in conclusion, and then think about your main points. So the main points here were low wages, high prices. Solutions are to get more education and to invest more money. So those are the solutions. So in conclusion, and then continue from here. So this is where you need to use some paraphrasing. Okay. Now, let me see. Maybe I can go back to where I paraphrased my thesis statement. Oh, there's a cute little intermission of a baby face at you. Break that seriousness of the lesson, and back to the lesson we go. Okay, so in this part here, especially for those of you who were in yesterday's class, you remember that we paraphrased the question at the beginning? Okay, and I haven't really used that. Okay, so this is where I can kind of use this to restate my main points, okay, and my argument. So let me just copy that. And let me see if I can stick that into my conclusion here. Okay. So in conclusion, millions of individuals work many hours to earn enough money for sustenance needs. And then here, my points, right? Because they get little pay, but have many expenses. Okay. And maybe I can use that second part a little bit later too, with the take-home message. So this is where I said yesterday that paraphrasing your question, don't use that right away in the introduction. It doesn't look that good. That's going to make a Band 6 essay, but maybe use it in your conclusion. Okay? Thanks, Lubna. All right, Bekjan says, in conclusion, being overworked is a serious problem in today's society, which results from low salaries and high expenses. Okay, Bekjan, that's good. Results from. Okay? An says, in conclusion, although long hours may be caused by limited income and high expenditures, people can spend their time with family and relaxation by investing wisely and earning more. Okay, good, An. You've really improved. Good for you, okay? Both your thinking and your English have come a long way since you first joined these classes. I'm happy to see that, okay? Yarabisha says, if someone wants to change their standard of living to become better, they have to give more effort to improving their capabilities through education and using their money to make money in the stock market. Okay, Arabisha, you have a lot of information there. Maybe break it up into a couple of sentences. All right. So in conclusion, millions of individuals work many hours to earn enough money for sustenance needs because they get little pay but have many expenses. Nevertheless, with the value of their time. Okay. And then the take-home message. Let me see if I can keep this in here. So what can I say when I'm thinking about my take-home message? I'm always thinking, what can I say to my reader in order to give them something valuable from my essay without giving them new arguments, okay? So your take-home message should never be a new argument, all right? It should be something that can be clearly seen from your essay, and that's truly valuable from your reader, where your reader goes, huh, okay, that's a good piece of advice, all right? Therefore, it is a good idea to do more with the available time a person has so that they can be with loved ones and they can spend time, that they can be with loved ones and be relaxed more often. Okay? All right, so that's my take-home message. So here we go. Let me read the whole essay for you. You should always read through the full essay when you're practicing at home to see if you can make some corrections to your grammar, your word choice. Make sure you're staying on topic. Okay? Here we go. Read this essay with me. Let's read the question one more time before we read the essay. That's always a good idea as well. So first read the task 2 question, then reread your essay and see what's going on. Here we go. IELTS task 2 writing. You should spend about 40 minutes on this task. Many people work long hours to make enough money for everyday life and have little time to spend with family and entertainment. What are the causes and solutions to this situation? Give examples and explanations to support the arguments in this essay. All right, so here we go. Millions of people suffer from being overworked to survive. Individuals slave away in their workplace for 14 hours each day to afford food, rent, commute, and clothes. This trend has a detrimental effect on people's relationship and overall quality of life. The causes of long working hours are low wages and high prices, while the solutions lie in more education and investing. Many of the popular and necessary professions in today's world are awarded with relatively small salaries, while the cost of living has significantly increased over the past few decades, which leads people to work much more than the 40-hour work week. Since the early 2000s, salaries for many professions, such as nurses and teachers, have only increased by about 10%, while the average rent cost has quadrupled and the cost of groceries has tripled. This means that these employees need to work at least twice as many hours to afford monthly expenses. The Canadian consensus shows that teachers were paid $20 at the turn of the millennium, and in 2000 they made $22, while the average rent cost soared from $800 to $2,100 during the same period. Clearly, this has created an additional strain on employees as they need to spend more time at their jobs. In order to create more time for loved ones and hobbies, individuals need to increase their hourly wage through higher education and their budget through smart investments. Both teachers and nurses can continue higher education to better their careers and become professors and doctors, thereby tripling their hourly wage and decrease the demand on working hours. In addition, they can use any disposable income to invest in blue chip stocks, which can earn a passive income in the long run. Arguably, a professor who makes $65 an hour can much more easily afford $2,100 monthly rent while working less hours. In conclusion, millions of individuals work many hours to earn enough money for sustenance needs because they get little pay but have many expenses. Nevertheless, through further learning in stock investing, people can increase the value of their time. Therefore, it is a good idea to do more with the available time a person has so that they can be with loved ones and be relaxed more often. All right, so it's fairly intense. It's fairly lengthy. Obviously, a band 9 now. I would work on maybe making that a little bit shorter. There's a couple of words, ideas that I could probably cut out, and it would still be perfectly fine, closer to 300 words and a band 9. Okay. So that's what you need to do. That's the structure and flow of a band 9 essay. It has to be unique. It has to have the correct structure. To practice your writing and for a lot more help, you can check us out at aehelp.com for academic IELTS and gltshelp.com for general IELTS. You're very welcome, everybody. Thanks for hanging in there today. I know there was some technical challenges. Yarabisha, yeah, 40 minutes as long as you practice and you know what you're doing is enough. And Yarabisha, it doesn't have to be this long. It's just having these elements that's important, okay? So having these pieces in there, that's important. You could say these in a little bit of a simpler way and still get that band 9. You're very welcome. Thank you for the emojis. Tomorrow I will be back with speaking, everyone, at the same time and a little bit earlier.